Assalamualaikum and salam satu Malaysia. My name is Shakira binti Muhammad Nasir, and for today's presentation, I would like to talk about how the news or issues on vaccinations have been portrayed in our English newspaper. This study is a work of several researchers, okay, such as Dr. Wanushira, Dr. Shafizan, Dr. Hilmi, as well as we have another two researchers from UPSI, which is Dr. Kamal Zaman and also Dr. Hamida. So let's proceed with my other slide. The title of my presentation today is The Coverage of Vaccination in the English Newspapers and Exploratory Study. Okay, these are several newspaper articles that can be found in NST. So what I'm trying to share with you here is the scenario or background of my studies or of our study. So basically, in recent years, okay, there has been a rise in the reappearance of vaccine preventable disease in Malaysia. For example, in February 2019, Sharul Anwar reported that a 2-year-old boy died believed to have been caused by diphtheria infections, and medical details revealed that the boy was not vaccinated since birth, and that could have been one of the factors that caused the infections. Not only that, there's also other news reported that another children been affected by the same disease in different localities. And the most alarming news, okay, was reported in at the end of 2019. For example, after 27 years, Malaysia being declared as polio-free country, the polio was contracted by a 3-month-old boy in Tuaran, Sabah. And a further investigation found that 23 people related to the boy, aged between 2 months and 15 years old, have not been vaccinated. Okay, this is reported by Petah Wazan 2019. So why does this phenomenon happen? There are several reasons that can contribute to this phenomenon. For example, low awareness about the importance of vaccination among parents, as well as the rise of anti-vaccination sentiment online. In 2019, WHO identified the anti-vaccination movement as a global health threat. In fact, yeah, the easy access to social media and the lack of gatekeepers monitoring on the internet content has allowed the anti-vaxxer to freely promote and push their ideas and beliefs to the general public. And as you can see, Malaysia nowadays are very much internet savvy. This is reported by MCMC, and in fact MCMC in 2018 found that 77% of Malaysians trusted the internet as a source of health information. So, this means Malaysian place credibility in the internet sources that may or may not be accurate. While internet sources can help give general information about health issue, it could be fatal when it comes to fake information and irresponsible use. So let's move to review of literature. From our review, we found that anti-vaccination videos received 32% more views and rating when compared to pro-vaccination videos. Killan et al. 2007. Seaman 2010 also found that 60% of the online content was slanted towards the anti-vaccination movement. And recently, Aziz 2020 found that misleading FB page have garnered around 40,000 followers despite it contents that go against scientifically proven medical methods. So what can be done? Okay, what is the issues and problems here? So now let's move to our problem statement. The number of news coverage alone is not effective to help the spread the vaccine update. The way news media frame and present vaccine stories are more important. Our review of literature found that positive coverage that highlight the importance of immunization can influence public awareness of the danger of vaccine preventable disease. However, our review also found other studies that reported otherwise. For example, Yu et al. 2019 found that the media coverage on the side effect of hepatitis B vaccine has weakened the public confidence toward the vaccine. Another example is by Wakefield article in 1998, whereby he mentioned or associated the MMR vaccination with the rise of autism among children. Basically, okay, based on these examples, we can see that unlike online content that is contributed by unverified sources, news media can become a sensible and trusted source for vaccination. For this reason, we believe exploring how Malaysian media dailies frame vaccination issues will help to explain whether or not the media play effective role in assuming its responsibility to correct vaccine misinformation. This study have two objectives. Number one, to explore the framing of vaccination issues in the selected English newspaper. And number two, to call the media for more accurate and fact-based information in covering vaccination stories. There are four research questions in this study. Number one, we would like to know how much do English newspaper cover about vaccinations. RQ number two, what are the news sources used by newspaper when covering about vaccinations? RQ number three, what are the types of coverage used by newspapers when reporting about vaccinations? And last but not least, RQ4 is how do Malaysian newspaper frame news on vaccination. This study used framing theory as theoretical framework, and it's quite common, okay, to use framing in health communication studies. So for example, Razali et al. 2018 used framing to explore how Malay newspaper portray and describe mental illness in Malaysia. Other examples are from Gupta and Sinha 2010, whereby these researchers use framing to investigate how health related messages that appeared in newspaper, magazine, television, and radio. So with this, yeah, we also found that okay, it's okay for us to study vaccinations using these framing theories. So this study employed qualitative content analysis, and we collected our data from two English newspaper, which are New Straits Time and also the Star. We collected the news starting from 1st January 2019 up to September 2019. And okay, a unit of analysis in this paper is the newspaper articles, and we have several coding categories, which are type of coverage, news sources, news frame, and the extent of coverage. So in this study, we are using a deductive approach, which involve okay predefining certain frame as content variables to verify the extent to which this frame occurs in this news. This approach makes it necessary for us to have a clear idea of the possible frame, because frames that are not predefined may be overlooked. Now let's move to the findings. Yeah, so amount of news coverage on vaccination. Even though anti-vaccine could be regarded as the world endemic, the news coverage on Malaysian newspaper, English newspaper is still limited. So from the data here, it shows that from the period of 9 months, there were only 133 news items on vaccination. 55 news items came from NST, and the remaining 78 is from the star. As you can see from the graph here, you can see that the new spike in February and June. Okay, why does this happen? In February, for example, the country was shocked with the news of the death of 2-year-old boy in Johor Bahru, and the boy died because of diphtheria, and he was found not being vaccinated. And also, okay, you see it spike again somewhere in June. Okay, so what happened here? There's another controversy issue occurred when 12 orang asli were found dead in Kuala Lumpur, Kelantan. Measles was found to be the cause of their deaths. This brought significant attention to the general well-being of the orang asli. The lack of immunization coverage, as well as concern about the return of vaccine preventable disease like measles in Malaysia. Therefore, while there are a small difference between the amount of coverage between English newspaper, it can be said that they have the same pattern of coverage. Both newspapers would seriously cover vaccination and immunization when there are controversies. Swalman and Aziz 2012 mentioned that the frequency, okay, could be regarded as a way to salient the news or exposures, especially during the most crucial month of the particular issues. Okay, now let's move to the second objective of this study, which is the source of news. So as you can see, the government agency, both newspaper use government agency as their source of news. However, as you can see here, the green color NST rely more on government agency compared to the Star. NST use around 70%, whereas Star use around 32% of government agency as their source of news. However, there's another interesting source of news here. As you can see, Star rely more on their journalists to provide as a source of news compared to NST. So what we can see here is both newspaper actually play their role as participatory journalists, whereby they include their opinion to describe the vaccination issues. Journalists may use storytelling technique to feature the humanized side of the story to capture reader attention and to make news appealing and interesting. But okay, as you can see, Star also rely on university research as their source of news. So this indicate that information from the expert is still important to help reporters to clarify certain technical matters, as well as to prevent misleading reader through unfamiliar claim and assertion. And as you can see, for private companies and research companies, there are none for the Star. However, there are quite several number of news used from these sources. Okay, as you can see here, okay, both newspaper use a news story when they report about vaccination in their newspaper. one thing, okay, that can be derived from this finding is that when it comes to vaccination or immunization, the newspaper would treat it as a news to be reported and not issue to be highlighted, discussed, and prioritized. Even during controversial occurrence, the newspaper would only report but would not discuss in more details the consequences of the issues at hand. Yeah, at most, the news would report about what the government is doing, but would not question or challenge the problem that lead to controversies such as the lack of enforcement, rise of anti-vaccine sentiments among young parents, and others. And you can see also in this finding that both newspaper, okay, the editorial table, okay, plays a role, okay. They do have coverage on vaccination in both newspaper. And also, okay, you can see another findings here. Compared to NST, the star do receive or write, okay, news coverage based on sponsored news or event. So for example, okay, maybe there's uh, event, okay, that promoting a vaccination or for young parents and whatnot, okay, you can see that star do coverage on this. Okay. Alright, now let's move to the last objective, which is the news frame in the selected newspaper. So as you can see here, both newspapers rely more on issue-focused frame when they wrote or when they write newspaper on vaccination. So here, okay, we can say or we can conclude that both newspapers frame their news by giving factual information without asserting any sentiment on vaccination issues in line with the principle of objectivity and journalism. And we can see also the second highest style of frame used in the selected newspaper or informational frame. So here, okay, we can see that both newspapers use issue focused frame and informational frame prominently when reporting about vaccination. So it is further discovered that both newspapers were highly objective when the news story appeared to be dominantly used by journalists when it comes to vaccine issues. And as you can see also, both newspapers, okay, also frame the news story in line with a government initiative towards vaccination. As you can see here, okay, the star news articles that frame into this, we found about around near to close to 15 news article, whereas for NST is about 9 news article. So here, okay, we can see basically, okay, these are the frame that usually used by media when they want to educate or when they want to inform to their readers. Okay, now let's move to the limitation and conclusions of the study. So basically, this study found that more exposure is needed on vaccination issues in Malaysia so that it can be a national agenda. By looking by the popularity of the English newspapers selected in this study, we found that more coverage is vital or is important to increase the awareness on the effect that anti-vaccination could have on public health. Although both newspapers, The Star and NST, might be targeting different markets, they should still exercise responsible reporting by giving more limelight to the issue like this. As such, government institutions, researchers, and media practitioners should work together to inform, to educate, and to create awareness to the public on the importance of vaccination and its implications. In light of this, okay, we would also to note, okay, when we collect this data, the study was influenced by several factors that indirectly affect the findings of the study. For example, one factor is that the research started the data collection when the issue was at peak last year and concluded when a few cases related with influenza H1N1 gaining more exposures, and the news on vaccine and their related issue was observed to drop. This is followed by the outbreak of CORENA, okay, COVID-19, that has been given high exposures even until today. Therefore, the paper is limited in explaining how Malaysian online newspaper cover vaccination and its preventable disease when COVID-19 is at the top notch of the media attention. With that, despite the limitation, the current research is still imperative to inform the media in Malaysia on how to better advocate and educate Malaysian public in the matter of vaccination, especially after quite some cases involving vaccine preventable disease reoccurred. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you.